understood. And I think I envy David Gengen and the Pietermaritzburg Gandhi Foundation, because they can, the train incident is a very dramatic incident. And it immediately the message gets to people. To convey the message of what Phoenix settlement means
Can you kindly
is
round
actually,
up,
yeah, it is much more difficult to do that. So I think when we think of his legacy, I think you have to look at Phoenix settlement and all that it stands for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Because we haven't had Professor Carson here, in fairness, you should have another 2.5 minutes, Professor Mack. In fairness, please do. Reflect on the issues of the contemporary relevance. So can you pick up from where you left off? It's only fair, because the others had the time. And then in the case of Gandhi, there were 3. So it's not fair. Please do speak. I'll come back to you to give a bit more space, the Mandela representatives too. Okay, but we're going to throw it open after you for questions. Do please speak for another 2.5 minutes or so. I'm not going to be rigid, but we want to hear what people want to know about. Sure. Thank you. Why are you smiling, Ila? What else am I supposed to do? No, that wasn't my call. There's a certain person here who's wearing a handicap cap. Ask him. I'm just an underling of his. Thank you.
All right. Well, there are a couple of ways to approach it. Since you're asking about his relevance, of course, Martin Luther King Jr. is famous for his speech given in 1963 at the Lincoln Memorial, commonly called the March on Washington, I Have a Dream speech. And his dream is still relevant today and often misunderstood. In fact, King is relegated to being merely a dreamer by those who find that to be convenient. But he was a rather radical nonviolentist who believed that humankind had the capacity to create a better world of peace and justice for all. So that message is still relevant today. And King called that vision a community. He called it the beloved community, in fact. But he was all about building community. And he left, having been assassinated at the tender age of 39. I mean, this is a guy who at 25 had the mantle of American apartheid thrust upon his shoulders as the preeminent spokesperson for a movement. And at that young age of 25, for 13 years, he carried that mantle. So I guess that makes him 38, not 39. But his dream remains unrealized, and it's our work. He moved from I'll talk the rest of the evening, so you better. He moved.
45 seconds.
Well, you took 2. So. No. I'm sorry. I'm with you. King, at 25, was asked by a group of women, half-dozen women, to represent their efforts to do away with segregated busing. And he moved from that to representing a movement, and he moved from representing a movement in a country to representing a global vision. Who can do that? How does that happen? Well, it happens because of this. King understood that he should do only that which he can do, that must be done and won't get done unless he did it. May I say it again, and then I'll pass the mic? Because that's his call to each of us, to do that thing which we can do, that must be done and won't get done unless we do it.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Can we now turn to the audience? Let's see how many people want to speak. Could you put your hands up? Then we'll split the time more or less evenly. Yes, can you introduce yourselves before you speak? But let's just number you. The gentleman here, 1, 2, who's next? That means they can have 15 minutes each, David. There's somebody on the top. I can't see very well with these lights shining right into one's face. Is there anybody else? Can I ask you a question? Yeah, sure. David is 3. Is there anybody there on the top? Yeah, there was a hand there, 4. Well then, yeah, go right ahead. But don't take unnecessarily long. They can reply, and then we can give a second round. Do go ahead in the order that you put your hands up. Thank you very much.
My name is Sriram Santi. I'm an ophthalmologist by profession. I have both sight and also vision, just for a joke. Okay, my question to Mrs. Ila Gandhi, I might have asked you before, but again, for me, it is very complex. How did a 24-year-old make that decision on that night, which affected 4 billion people's present, future, and past? What I meant by that is, on June 7th, 1893, at 9 p.m., he was thrown out of the first-class compartment. He had 3 choices and made the best choice for the world that followed him. How did he make that choice? Who was the influence for him? What made him do that? Did he ever say it? He just said that happened, but did he say what gave him the strength or the vision to do that? I want a perfect answer.
You might want to mention whether you met him or not as well. When you answer that, maybe you want to say to the audience whether you ever met him or not. Right, number 2, please.
I am Dr. Bindeshwar Pathak from India. What Gandhi thought, dreamed in 1919 to make India clean, and he preferred sanitation first and independence later on. It's a long story, I'll leave it here. But I fulfilled the dreams of Mahatma Gandhi in the sanitation and in the untouchability and many others. Now, I feel proud and privileged to say to people that I am follower of Gandhi and I have fulfilled his dreams in India and also applicable globally. I came to Phoenix Ashram before also. Ilaji also went to our office in Delhi. But this time, Mr. Prasad persuaded me to come to this conference and the function organized. And I had a privilege that Madam Ila Gandhi ji cooked food herself, served me, and also she had a meal with us, with my wife. She's also here. Prasad ji was also there. I phoned to India, to my office, that I will come and I will brief you to write about this. It's the rarest of the rare occasion. I feel in my life it was the happiest day, one of the.
Thanks very much. If you can kindly round up so we can.
Yeah, of course. So now, she cooked food for me, and I think this is the rarest of rare happiness in my life. Then how happy she would have been feeling, or Asha, being the descendant of Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma name is taken with reverence, and everybody appreciates Gandhi.
Thank you. Thanks for that.
No, just give me 10 seconds more.
Okay.
And this time, she gave me opportunity to inaugurate the exhibition, that the magazine. And therefore, I say again, I repeat, that I feel proud and privileged. And what about her and the descendants of Gandhi, they are the best persons in the world.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, David? Right, there's a questioner there at the back, and there's a lady here. So it's number 4, number 5, number 6.
Thank you very much, Program Director. I'm Dr. Sipe Potelwa from Nelson Mandela Museum Council, Deputy Chairperson. My question is with Prof. What American, black in particular, raise national concern to say Black Lives Matter in a brutal military operation? That the king raised the dream, that he had a dream where blacks will move freely and join the forces of the colonial in America. Now, my question now, what is raised on me is that, does Black American value such a dream? I just need an answer there. Now, when I'm going to Nelson Mandela, in a state of democracy, post-democracy, that government is captured, what will be the view of Dr. Nelson Mandela's values within the same party he fought for, in his will that he will die and request the branch of the ANC? Do you believe that he still has such values and dreams to join such? Thank you very much, Program Director.
Thank you. The lady here with a hand up, and there was a gentleman behind her.
Yes.
Sorry? So just take that first before those two. I don't know how they're going to follow this. Are you fine just to take these 2 questions? You fine? Yeah, they're fine. They've done this sort of thing many times, I'm sure. Okay, yeah.
Dr. Elizabeth Williams from University of Edinburgh. We've spoken a lot about the way in which Gandhi, Mandela and Martin Luther King were able to draw inspiration from one another. And I just wondered if you could comment, please, on the ways in which you are pulling young leaders from both the African, Indian and coloured communities to be able to work together into the future, as well as having that intergenerational dialogue. What is being done for these young people, for instance, and other young people to come together to take it forward as well? Thank you.
In the back there.
Hi everyone, Jose Pablo from Mexico here. My question is for all the speakers. It's about the ego. How do you deal each of you with your ego or the weight that you could have on your back to be representatives of the most important icons in the world, like Gandhi, Mandela, and King? How do you deal with this charge, if it's a charge for you?
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll throw it back to you. Let's start with the Mandela Foundation. Do you two want to respond to them? And then we'll go to...
I would want to respond directly to the question that relates to how do we develop young leaders as Nelson Mandela Museum. As I said earlier on, you will remember that I have alluded to the fact that we have international programs that we are working on as Nelson Mandela Museum. Maybe I must emphasize the fact that just before I joined this conference on Wednesday, I was coming from another international collaboration with the German government, where we are setting up, an international youth camp. The purpose of the international youth camp is to teach young children, youth, about the impact of Holocaust, and also about the anti-democracy, call it systems, that are within our communities. That is the work that we are doing. And another thing that we are doing with the German government and Nelson Mandela Museum is to teach, young people, the youth of tomorrow, the youth of today and tomorrow, about governance and democracy and how to protect democracy. So that is our call as Nelson Mandela Museum, to ensure that we are developing a new generation of leaders, thoughtful leaders, law-abiding leaders, unique leaders for the future of this country. So that's exactly what we are doing. Thank you.
Okay, I think I'll answer that question there about what Madiba would do with a captured ANC and whether he would still join a branch of the ANC wherever you go to when you die. It's very hard to answer such a question. I don't think we can speculate. But what I can say is that the fact that there's corruption and that is contrary to Madiba's values, I can say that quite openly and firmly. And I think there would have been a deep disappointment to know that his party, the party that he was so loyal to, has come to this state. So I'll just leave it at that. The question about leadership and social cohesion is one of our key work that we do at the foundation through various programs. We have a leadership development program where we give young people classes on Madiba's values and what it means. We partner with the University of Columbia in the Atlantic Fellows for Racial Equity program, which run programs intercontinental with young people from both America and South Africa around those kind of issues as well. So we know that, I think somebody earlier on said that it's not just young people, but we know that these values have to be passed on to future generations as well. Thanks.
You speak, a lot of youth are coming in. Dr. Mack, over to you.
Okay. So on Black Lives Matter, and what African Americans might think or believe, I am an African American. I'm not all African Americans, so I can answer for myself. I can give a perspective. I think that that the African American community today is very different from the African American community in the mid-20th century when Dr. King was alive. The world changes and people change. Certainly, I think the African American community obviously believes that Black Lives Matter. It's a mantra that many hold on to. Belief is one thing. Action is entirely something different. And the action that we see, towards social change and the social movement in today's world is very different from what it was in the mid-20th century. That's not a commentary, good or bad, right or wrong. It simply is that different people respond to circumstances at different times. And so we see that today. I think that in terms of youth and what we're doing, first of all, I'm not a spokesperson for the King family. Let me be clear on that. I do work with a number of the family members. I'm a former director of the King Center in Atlanta as well. The King Center itself does a number of programs in Atlanta, where it's headquartered, and around the world on advancing Dr. King's legacy, his logic of nonviolence, and fighting for social justice and social change, and educating youth very much in the same way that I've just heard that the Nelson Mandela Foundation here in South Africa does for youth. In our own work at the World House Project, we have a rather robust program called the World House Global Network, which includes youth, and our founding director, Dr. Claiborne Carson, holds a weekly meeting with young people, youth, most of them below the age of probably 20, where he speaks to them every week for an hour. We do those kinds of programs. There may have been another, but I've probably talked long enough. I'll pass it on.
I just need to tell you, my boss here said, no, I'm not just a chair, I'm a facilitator, so I can interrupt now and then. All right, there it is, in response to your position, Mr. Mack. Do you want to go on? Please do if you want to.
Well, on the question of leadership,
Yeah.
and you know, ego, and you know, the beauty of these three leaders was, you know, they recognized they were human, and they, you know, and so they were not perfect, but they were willing to step in the gap. They were willing to put their lives on the line, each of them. There was, as you were here the hour before or two, there was something inside of them that wouldn't let them say no. They responded to the urgency of now. And again, they left that challenge for us today to take on the mantle of leadership with its benefits and its burdens. And that's a challenge to each and every one of us today.
Ila?
Yeah, so just a brief answer, and then maybe my other two family members can answer. So about ego and about the how a 24-year-old took the decision, and I'm giving my own opinion, not a historic account, but what I think could have gone in Gandhiji's mind. So the one thing you see about Gandhiji is that he had a very powerful conscience. If he did anything wrong, his conscience always, you know, irked him. And because he had that conscience, he tried to rectify, to do things, you know, in the right way, or closest to the right way, because none of us have the absolute, right? So that evening when he was thrown off the train as a 24-year-old, he had three choices, and we know about that already, and he made the right choice of staying and confronting the evil that he saw in the country. And later, he told everyone that when you see something, an injustice being perpetrated, don't overlook it, do something about it. And so that was his resolve on that night, and later he propagated that. And that's the lesson that we have learned. I'm not saying that, like Asha says, that decisions are difficult to take. So we all have challenges, and we're not sure whether we took the right decision, but we try. And that trying is the thing that we have to look at. About leadership and ego and that, yes, we can go around and say we are Gandhis, and so we should have privilege or whatever it is, but that's not what either Gandhi, Mandela, or Martin Luther King would have approved of.
Or
He
you,
would
for that matter.
definitely,
Or you, for that matter, let's be frank.
Okay, or me,
Asha's
but
not-
I'm not that great.
Asha's nodding in agreement.
Absolutely. So I'm just saying that, you know, leadership is important, but don't look at just, you know, if you look around this hall, there are so many people here, Mr. Pathak, who has taken up Gandhian ideas, Mr. Prasad, Mr. Sonti, David, who's running the Gandhi Foundation, and so many others who are not related to Gandhiji or to Martin Luther King or to Mandela, but they are taking up those challenges and doing something about it. So the important thing for me is that leadership is built by people who take a challenge and do something about it. That's what you need to do.
Asha?
And that's what we
Thank you very much. Asha?
So, what my mom was talking about with social justice, and I have translated that. Just, you know, if you, the bloodline is there, there's nothing to do about it really, and nothing I would want to do about it. So I didn't really want to talk too much about my work, but I'll say this. I'm a lawyer. I'm a social justice lawyer. I decided to give up private practice after 5 years and start providing free legal services to people who can't afford a private lawyer. In the last, say, 10 to 15 years, I've been working with lawyers from all over Africa, East Africa, Southern Africa, and the Great Lakes region. And one of the things that we talk about is building a cadre of social justice lawyers. And what does that mean? You would see my students would write, if you had to ask any of them, it means not turning away from an injustice. Basically, when you see an injustice taking place, that you summon up the strength within you to not turn away from it, regardless of what that might be, big, small, but not turning away from injustice. And so the whole program that we ran, it included intergenerational leadership development and everything, but fundamentally, it was about that. The other thing that we did was, it was a master's program, an LLM program, and every Friday, so 1/5 of the program involved doing manual work. And basically, that work was supervised. Our boss, if you want to call it a boss, was our gardener. He was in charge of us. Basically, he would dictate to us what we had to do. You know, if we're going to pick up dirt, if we're going to dig a toilet, if we're going to build a structure around the toilet, regardless of what it was. It was pit toilets, Dr. Pathak. It was just deep pit toilets, but you'll see us going into that hole and digging it, women and men alike. And this was to again, impart this idea that all different forms of work are equal.
Thanks, Hila.
But we didn't.
Thanks, Asha.
Yeah, but we didn't say that it. I didn't disclose my heritage in doing all that. It was just done. But obviously, if you hear me and then you hear my mother before me, you know that I learned it. That's the sort of milk. That's the milk that we were fed.
Yeah. Just very quickly, how many more people want to speak? We got just slightly less than 18 minutes. Who's left? So we just know. There's 1, 2, and yourself. Yeah, you go quickly. But before you do, Uma, you want to come in now? We give more space. Just let them ask their questions, and I'll come first to you. Is that okay? Because it's important to hear from people their concerns, their questions. Right, David?
Now, I just want to ask Hila, just to give us a personal reflection of her interaction with her grandfather. She's the only one here that had that personal...
I don't know why she's shying away from that
so
question.
I would really like the audience to please just hear some of the personal things that happened between her and her grandfather.
All right, we'll come back to that. Who's next? There were 2 other hands up. There's a 3rd hand, I think. Yeah.
Thank you, Program Director. I'm directing the program, the question to the Nelson Mandela Museum. As you have indicated, as CEO of the Nelson Mandela Museum, that there are programs that are taking place in your institution. You've indicated of the German partnership. Do you have other stakeholders that you are conducting to have such programs that will have the leadership experience to the youth of Eastern Cape and the entire nation? Secondly, I haven't heard you mentioning about Utata Nelson Mandela himself and his leadership, and how are you preserving his legacy and the values in the Nelson Mandela Museum? Thank you.
Okay, there's a hand up there on the right as we face you.
On the right?
Okay, well, it seems to have faded. Okay, on the left.
Prem Namaste to everybody. My name is Pawan Bandhu, and I am the nephew of the late Mr. Dasrath Bandhu, who he called Babuji as well. And he was the person who was iconic in Pietermaritzburg, a strong Gandhi follower, who was responsible for the erection of the Gandhi statue in Pietermaritzburg, who followed the Gandhi principles and also wrote the book, the whisperings of the Gandhi follower. Now, my contribution here tonight is just merely in terms of the Gandhi followings and in terms of how we would filter it down to every individual right here. Firstly, it starts with you. It starts with us here within ourselves to firstly believe in the Gandhi principles, and every single icon of this conference, Gandhi, Mandela, and King. But then we have what I would call a disruption or an interruption of that, where it becomes political. So where are the politicians, and how are the support, or how is the support structure willing to support each and every one of our principles in that manner? If the corruption, etc., which was mentioned earlier on, is so rife in many countries, not only South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other hand up before we go to Uma first? There doesn't seem to be any. Sorry, is there somebody muttering something, want to speak? It's not always easy to see you, right? But I gather that there isn't anybody for now. So let's go to Uma quickly. Oh, there's somebody at the front. Oh, you asked a question, but fine. Very quickly. Thank you. Oh. Sorry, go ahead, please. Oh, right. Sorry, I didn't. I thought, yeah. Go ahead, Professor.
Good evening. My name is Prasad. I am from India. Now, as far as society is concerned, the education system is concerned, I think they are removing all the value base in the students. And they are trying to make them some kind of robotic machines to subserve the interests of some vested interests. But Mahatma Gandhi, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and Nelson Mandela, they have shown the path where to challenge injustice in a non-violent way. So that very essential element and the path shown by these great three leaders is missing in the society and the education system, particularly the youth. We tried to reach about 50,000 youth in the last 5-6 years. So this is a challenge. How do we counter that? How do we ensure, whether it is with the governments or the policymakers, because it's not just enough to pay a lip sympathy to Gandhi, King, and Mandela, that they're the great people and then keep them aside, while the society goes on a wrong path of development. So how do we all come together? All the people who are in the conference here, under the leadership of the Gandhi, King, Mandela families, how do we take it forward? And we're all here to work like soldiers. But then we need that kind of inspiration, guidance from all of you. That's what I look forward. Thank you.
Okay, I think we'll have to round up now. So when you respond, you can respond to all the questions, and also, I'm also entitled to ask a question, right? So very quickly, okay, so this conference is on its own terms extremely useful as an academic or philosophical or, you know, discussion agenda, right? And forum. But from what I can gather with looking at the program, there's also recommendations that are going to come out of it. So I want to ask each of you, can you tell me 2 things that you would like to see concretely come out of this conference? All of you in different ways have said that these were people not just of ideas and values, they were people of action. And you've all said different things. It would be nice to suggest to the organizers what your views are and to the audience, what 2 things you would like to come out of this conference, 2 practical things. Having said that, let's start with Uma quickly.
I just wanted to...
We've got about 10, 12 minutes, but go for it. We won't be too rigid, David. Or 20 minutes. Okay, they've added 10 minutes.
So I just wanted to respond to the question, which is a very good question about the Pietermaritzburg incident and his decision at that moment. If you think of Satyagraha, if you think of Gandhi and vegetarianism, if you think of Tolstoy Farm, and if you think of Phoenix Settlement, for every one of those, Gandhi would give you somebody who inspired him, whether it was Thoreau, whether it was Ruskin, whether it was Tolstoy, Henry Salt, and so forth. Even the natural healing methods was all he would say. He read this and so. But the Pietermaritzburg decision is his own very personal decision. At the age of 24, he hadn't even started reading all these great books about injustice and so forth. So it's a very crucial moment for himself. And that is why he calls it his most creative moment. So I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you so much. Let's start from this end.
Thank you, Chairperson or Facilitator. Well, if I may have to respond directly to this question which was asked by that speaker, I would want to say that Nelson Mandela Museum is doing a lot of work. Unfortunately, we don't have time, and I'm so worried about that, because you won't hear what you would want to say about these institutions of memory. But Nelson Mandela Museum is doing a lot of work. And the work that we are doing is not only about the preservation, promotion of Nelson Mandela's values, but we are also building new communities. How do we build new communities? Working closely with the different stakeholders. For instance, right now we have signed a memorandum of understanding with the Public Service Commission. Why are we doing that? It is because we want to emphasize the issue of good governance, using the Nelson Mandela as a platform, Nelson Mandela Museum as a platform. We have signed an MOU with the Michigan State University. Why are we doing that? It is because we are trying to open up opportunities for unemployed youth who have done it, but they can't go to universities. They should go to America, to those universities, and be trained, you know, on various aspects. So that is the kind of work that we are doing. It is the work of empowering youth, in particular unemployed youth, open up opportunities for them, and using the museum for that purpose, as a vehicle for that purpose. Another thing which is so important, and I must emphasize it, Mandela and his leadership and how we preserve his legacy. Colleagues, as Nelson Mandela Museum, we are trying our level best. But you know what? I'm warming up now. And I don't want to get there. But you know what? The only people who are burying 6 feet underground the legacies of these leaders, it is not the politicians, but it is the civil society or the members of the civil society. We tend to distance ourselves away from all the initiatives that are ensuring that the legacy of Gandhi, the legacy of Mandela and Dr. Martin Luther King is promoted. Why? It is because we want to be relevant to the governing parties of our countries. That is the only problem that we are facing. Now, the question would be, why would you expect any governing party in this world to promote these values? Because the very same values of these leaders are questioning the character of our leaders. And that is very much important. Why would you run away from that? And if we do not stand up as members of the civil society and advocates of social justice, then we are bearing the legacy of Gandhi and Mandela and Dr. King. And then let it be. Now, the last thing, facilitator, how do we take forward? You know what? I want to advocate here. You said we must propose, make few propositions. And my proposition, which is coming from Nelson Mandela Museum, and that one is going straight to the universities, institutions of higher learning in this country. You know what? There's a lot of research that is being done on decolonization. But where is that output going to? That output is shelved somewhere because you have received your PhD on decolonization. But if you go to that study, to that dissertation, most definitely you won't find any reference to Mandela, Gandhi, and King. You continue to make a reference to white people who have written about us. And what is a transformation when it comes to let's talk about the decolonization of curriculum within the university spaces, and make sure that you are opening spaces for the values of Nelson Mandela and others. Let us transform the curriculum. You know what? If you go to high schools of South Africa, you look at their curriculum, you find the stories, the values of Gandhi, Mandela, and Dr. King as add-on methods. Just add-on methods. It's hardly 5 pages. Maybe it is 2.5 pages. What kind of knowledge are you producing if you are doing that? And what kind of young people are you expecting to have tomorrow if the legacy of our people within the curriculum of this country is an add-on method? Why are we doing that, and why are we here? And perhaps I must ask this question, that the knowledge, because what we are here and what we are doing right here, right now, in fact, for the 3 days, and including tomorrow, it is nothing else but a knowledge production exercise. But the question would be, what would happen to that knowledge that has been produced here for the past 3 days? It's going to gather dust somewhere instead of finding itself into the classes. Thank you.
I think it's a hard act to follow. I think in terms of concrete proposals, I think this is a good network of people. It seems like-minded people with the values of the 3 icons. So I'd like to see some networking forum coming about as well. And then yesterday, or was it this morning, in one of the sessions, the idea of interrogating the alternate newspaper. Thanks.
I want to also speak to the issue of networking. It is crucial today that we who continue to struggle for our place in the global theater and for participation as global citizens, if I can use that term, we have to network. We have to work together in solidarity. We at the World House Project have a global network program. It's called the World House Global Network. We meet every Friday. If this sounds like a commercial, it is. We meet every Friday via Zoom. And Ela and many in the audience are part of that network. It's part of what King, Mandela, and Gandhi, I think, would argue, that we have to come together as one people in solidarity. And so the second thing related to that is building our infrastructure. In building any community, the first thing you put in place is infrastructure. Think about that. And so if we're really going to build a global community of one, then we have to build the infrastructure. And what is the infrastructure? I don't have time because you're not going to give me any more time to explain it. But as civil society, as a network of citizens in solidarity, what is the infrastructure that we need in order to accomplish our goals?
Between my mother and I just said to her, she needs to have the last word. I have just 3 sentences, actually. The one is relating to your question, Dr. Sonti, about that moment. And on reflection, I think that was a great moment of humiliation for Bapuji. He experienced deep humiliation. And maybe it gave rise to indignation at first, but it definitely grew out into humility. And when you experience, if you want humility, I think for me the lesson is, and it goes to your question about ego as well, it's my spiritual practice, just to share with you, my spiritual practice, my prayer to God, is to grant me the grace of deep humility. for which I realize I need to be willing to accept an experience of great humiliation. And so I think that that's what that moment might have been about. I can't know for sure. So building on that, as a family, for once I'm going to speak really as a family, and I think I can definitely speak as a family for this, on this, and say, as a family, we are here to serve and not be served, Dr. Prasad. You are not the soldiers, you are the generals, we are the soldiers. Don't, I mean, maybe the war analogy is not quite appropriate for this occasion, but I for one, don't see myself as somebody to direct, but really to be directed by your wisdom, your experience, all of you. I might be gray, but I still see myself as being somebody to be than to be served. And the last thing, my personal, what I would like to see come out of this gathering, not necessarily the formal part of the conference, but the gathering, is an ashram in Phoenix Settlement.
Ila?
I don't know if Uma wants to say something.
Sorry?
Before Uma?
She's spoken already.
Okay.
Does she?
Okay, so.
Sir. Okay, they'll respond to you. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's not in my hands. There's events happening afterwards. It's your question here. Can you respond to his question and David's, please? You can pass David's if you don't want to, but the question was, do you remember, sorry? Okay, he's insisting he wants to be heard.
Okay,
over your
David's
meeting with Gandhiji, yeah.
Okay, so I was only 7 years old when I met him. And that was because I was born in South Africa and lived here. My parents took me to India when I was 7 years old, and that was when I first met him. All I want to share with you is what a warm grandfather he was. Maybe other people think of him as, as somebody distant and so on. That's the image that is created sometimes. But for me, as the granddaughter, I know that I stayed with him, and every day he had a certain time that was allocated to the children in the ashram, and all the children will gather with him, and he would tell us stories and speak to us. And the one incident that I know David wants me to say is the story of the pumpkin. So I stayed there as a 7-year-old. I stayed in the ashram for about 4 or 5 days. And every single day, morning and evening, we used to get boiled pumpkin for lunch and supper. And then after the 7th day, I got a little bit upset about it. So I went to my grandfather and I said, Grandfather, you call this Sevagram. That is the place of service. That's the name of the ashram. And I said, why don't you call it Kolagram? That means pumpkin land. Because we eat pumpkin every day. And my grandfather, he didn't just listen to that banter like many of us do when children come and say stories. We forget about it. But he didn't. He took it very seriously. And that same evening, in the public prayer, he went there and told the entire community that when I tell you to live a simple life, I am not saying that you eat pumpkin every day. There is variety. There are many other vegetables. Please cook the other vegetables. So the lesson from that is, firstly, he was a warm grandfather who gave us time. And he didn't only give us time, he gave us quality time when he listened to what we said. He didn't just, give us half attention. And remember in 1947, how busy he must have been. Those of you who know the Indian history, at that time there was, the new constitution, there were the riots going on. There were so many things happening in India. It was the busiest and the hardest time that he had. And yet, he gave us that time. And when I came back to South Africa as a 7-year-old, we came back in 1947. In January 48, he passed, he was assassinated. But in that time, he wrote me a letter. To a 7-year-old child, he wrote a letter.
And you have that?
Yes, it's in the museum.
Museum.
Mr. Anamale knows about it. He can vouch that the letter is there.
That's a lovely note on which to end. So let me ask you to, give the wonderful panelists a huge round of applause. But also, in particular, I know there are many other people who are veterans here, but I can only speak for the panelist that's here, the veteran. I think Ila Gandhi in particular, who endures and endures and endures, who is as committed and as passionate to activism now as she was when I first met her 5 decades ago. Can we give a special round of applause for Ila Gandhi?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Over to you, David.
I must say that people in the audience will know what I'm talking about. Yunus Karim has changed. I mean, not only did he not mention finally, but he didn't mention finally 2 or 3 times. If you know Yunus, you know what I'm talking about. But thank you very much, Yunus. That's one of the reasons why we asked you to facilitate tonight, because we knew that you'll bring some kind of personal reflection. Can we give Yunus Karim a hand, please? Okay, so what we're going to do now is please don't leave the audio, the auditorium. We're going to give the guys a chance to remove these props over here, because we're going to move into the evening of entertainment. You're going to be wonderfully, wonderfully entertained tonight. And so in the meantime, we're going to ask Chet's, Professor Chet's Devrup to please play an interlude while this thing is happening, so we don't have to, yes, okay. You want to use the mic?
Two. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening to you. I think those of you who've attended the function these past 2 evenings must be tired of actually hearing me by now. It's like hearing the same speaker say the same thing 3 times in a row. So it's a very tough act to follow, you know, when I listen to such greatness that was here on the floor right now. I've given some thought about a piece that I wanted to play for you this evening. And I know for the purists in the audience, the art purists, you're not going to like what I'm going to do. But I think if one looks at our lives, we are all products of hybridization, of syncretization. That's where we come from. And I've selected a piece. It's a film music piece, a popular piece that I've set to a kind of beaty groove for you. And this piece brings together the elements of these 3 great souls from the 20th century, from the lands that they come from and the cultures that they had brought with them. It's a piece that you'll hear some reflections of some things Indian, some things African, And of course, I'm African, so you're going to hear that bit in it. And you're going to hear some things jazzy, which is going to bring something from the land of, across the Atlantic as well. So I hope you enjoyed this piece. It's a popular Indian piece. The piece is about 3 minutes long, so enjoy it.
Thank you very much. That's just the beginning of our entertainment this evening. It's my pleasure now to introduce you to Ntokozo Madlala, who is a lecturer in the School of Arts here, who's put together this production. And I'm going to ask you to just come forward and just give a few words of introduction to the production.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening to the distinguished guests and everybody who has joined our beautiful Hexagon Theatre for this week. What I'm doing is to just frame the performances we are about to see. So essentially, there are 4 10-minute pieces that we are going to see. This is the stories of reflecting on the 3 icons from the lens of young people. So there are 4 directors who are part of the 2023 honors directing class. And each one of them had a task of taking either one icon or a combination of the icons and responding to whatever information that they find about the icon. It was quite an interesting journey because at the beginning, one of the things that I discovered, we as a generation know of these icons, we've experienced these icons, and we sort of have an expectation that everybody knows who they are. And to discover that some of them, they only knew Gandhi isn't he that guy with the statue in the center of town? And that was the only frame of reference. And to see how they have journeyed from that place to do some research, find out information, you can only do so much in 10 minutes. So each one of them had to compress an aspect, an element, a response to the information that they were finding out about the icons. So the first production we are going to see is focusing on Dr. Martin Luther King, and it's directed by Zumagahle Madlala. The second production we are going to see is focusing on Dr. Gandhi, and it is directed by Nosipo. The third production we are going to see is focusing on Nelson Mandela, and it will be directed by Mihla Sikenya. And the fourth production we are going to see is what we call the remix, or looking at the 3 icons directed by Philile Njigicha. Do enjoy. Thank you. They do not know what they have done. Oh, let me say, we've got to give ourselves to the struggle until the end. I don't know what will happen from now. But let me tell you something. We've got some difficult days ahead. But I'm not concerned about that. Because I've been to the mountain top. And now I'm going to stand up and take my people with me. And together, we are going to the promised land. We are going to advance the home.
I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home. Far across the river, can you hear freedom calling?
The Lord is ahead of us.
Keep on keeping on. I can feel it.
You have made it 100 miles to freedom. Would you like to pick a new name to mark your freedom? Hampton.
Oh, thank you, Lord. Oh, thank you, Lord. It's okay. It is okay, sister. The Lord will take care of you. It's okay.
Towards that separating line.
Oh, I see you, Jesus. I see you.
I'm waiting through the water.
Oh, Lord.
You know I gotta make up mine.
Jesus, is that you?
And I don't mind if I lose any blood on the way to salvation. And I'll fight with the strength that I got until I die. So I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home. Far across the river, you hear freedom calling.
Sisters, are you okay? You know how I get it. So I was telling people that you need to. It's that. Oh, just give me 1 second. Sister, what would I do without you? It was amazing. The speech that moved a lot of people, even kids. I was so surprised. I keep on telling people, when you mix goodness and kindness and let faith lead you to the promised land, you will see people change and multiply.
Even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal.
And when this happens, when we allow freedom to reign, when we let it ring from every state and every city, and we'll be able to speed up on that day, when all God's children, black and white men, Jesus and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spirit. Free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free.
But are we really free? Dr. Martin Luther King's idea of free?
We've got to give ourselves to this struggle until the end, the end, the end, the end.
would you like to pick a new name to mark your freedom? Phantom.
Early in the morning, before the sun begins to shine, we're gonna start moving towards that separating line. I'm wading through muddy waters. You know I got a made up mind, and I don't mind if I lose any blood on the way to salvation. And I fight with the strength that I got until I die. So I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. Can you hear freedom calling, calling me to answer? Gonna keep on keeping on.
Harriet, welcome to the Underground Railroad.
And I know what's around.
Misha B, Ravi B, Carbon Crazy. Baseline.
ये दिल
I must adapt to this life that I'm not used to. What is this? I don't understand how the people here live. But since I'm here already and in need of this degree, I guess I'll have to adapt to their way of living. Even to what they wear. Prayer is not asking. It is a longing of a soul. It is a daily admission of one's weakness. It is better in prayer to have a heart without no words than words without a heart. Oh, so this is what is used for eating. I guess I'm in embarrassment with the way that I eat. And I think that's why they probably made me sit alone all in this room. I'm deeply rooted in who I am and my identity. But for the sake of peace, I will do what I'm needed to do. Because I know what I'm here to do. Be the change that you wish to see in the world. And see the good in people and help them. Live as if you are to die tomorrow, and learn as if you are to live forever.
शर्मीले नैन हो गए तेरा की कसूर जे नशीले नैन हो गए सिख की अदामा शर्मीले नैन हो गए साम के रखनी है जोबनी पटारी साम के रखनी है जोबनी पटारी मुड़ मुड़ के नहीं आउनी है बहार मुंडिया तो बच के रही नी तू हुणे हुणे होई मुटियार मुंडिया तो बच के रही नी तू हुणे हुणे होई मुटियार मुंडिया तो बच के रही चढ़ती जवानी तेरा रूप डट मारदा पतला जलक ना हुनारा भी सहारदा पतला जलक ना हुनारा भी सहारदा गोरा रंगी उत्तो मीर गाजी तोर गोरा गोरा रंगी उत्तो मीर गाजी तोर नहीं तेरे जई सोनी कोई नार मुंडिया तो बच के रही नी तू हुणे हुणे होई मुटियार मुंडिया तो बच के रही नी तू हुणे हुणे होई मुटियार मुंडिया तो बच के रही
I'm more even happier of obtaining his law degree. He has never forgotten about us. Even after he has traveled across the world, he always thought of us. His people! नीमिया तू कुछ चीर पा के रख ले पल्ले विच मुखड़ा लुका के रख ले
My people, it is good to be back in the land like no other which is home. I have obtained my law degree in the University College of London. The welcome ceremony means everything to me. It has shown me that I am loved dearly. And to my dearest one,
तेरा की कसूर जे नशीले नैन हो गए सिख की अदामा शर्मीले नैन हो गए तेरा की कसूर जे नशीले नैन हो गए सिख की अदामा शर्मीले नैन हो गए साम के रखनी है जोबनी पटारी साम के रखनी है जोबनी पटारी मुड़ मुड़ के नहीं आउनी है बहार मुंडिया तो बच के रही नी तू हुणे हुणे होई मुटियार मुंडिया तो बच के रही नी तू हुणे हुणे होई मुटियार मुंडिया तो बच के रही
All rise in courts. All rise in courts. You may sit.
Mr. Mahatma Gandhi, please step into the stand and tell the court your side.
peace is all that I say. As a fully qualified lawyer, I fully understand the law. I know if someone does wrong, they need to be punished. But you can't fight fire with fire. Retaliating to these people will only make matters worse. And thank God me and my lovely wife are unharmed. I will not be laying charges because peace is all that I'm asking. Thank you.
With all being mnumzana. Awuvumelekile ukuba kule ndawo indawo abantu abamhlophe.
Sorry, we have not had to pay here. We paid the full amount. Look.
Hey, ngithi awuvumelekile ukuba kule ndawo indawo yabantu abamhlophe le.
But that is racist. You are discriminating us because of our race. We also deserve to be here. What is this nonsense?
What is this nonsense? I'm afraid we gave you no choice but to forcefully remove it here.
No, we can't do
Yeah.
Don't touch my husband is a lawyer. Don't touch my husband. You are You get my husband. How could you? You are so cruel. You are hurting me. What about my baby? My husband. My husband. You are so cruel. These people are so cruel. Somebody help. Somebody help. Please help us. I don't want to lose him now. I don't want to lose him now. Oh, we cry and we pray for a peaceful world with no commotion. I don't want to lose you now. I don't want to lose you now. My husband died, my baby. Oh, somebody please help. Oh, please. Amen.
It is okay, darling wife. It is okay. It will probably take a while for us to live in a peaceful world with no commotion. For now, we can only hope and pray for a better society.
के रख लै पल्ले विच मुखड़ा लुका के रख लै नीमिया तो कुछ चीर पा के रख लै पल्ले विच मुखड़ा लुका के रख लै एवें करी ना किसे दे नाल प्यार मुंडिया तो बच के रही नी तू हुणे हुणे होई मुटियार मुंडिया तो बच के रही नी तू हुणे हुणे होई मुटियार मुंडिया तो बच के रही बहार मुंडिया तो बच के रही नी तू हुणे हुणे होई मुटियार मुंडिया तो बच के रही नी तू हुणे हुणे होई मुटियार मुंडिया तो बच के रही चढ़दी जवानी तेरा रूप डाटा मारदा पतला जलक ना हुनारा भी सहारदा
was known, loved, and a hero to the world. But for me, he was just an ordinary.
Ula
Ipolitiki. Ndithamba futhi iBhayibhile sokukhamisile ngoSunday school. Ipolitiki. Oh, come on, ipolitiki. Politics, please. Can you leave my husband alone? Ndiyacela torho.
Eve. I didn't have really
about your day, get that?
Today, me and the other ANC executives, we found that Van Riebeck's descendants are still continuing with this thing, separation. They call it apartheid in Afrikaans. I see a very dark cloud coming over this nation. Where are the kids? Are the kids okay? Monake, are you doing fine, my love?
As if you care.
How?
First of all, yes, the vivumba madukana. Whose perfume is that called?
Uteta utini ngalodo Evelyn.
That smell, Holly. I know that smell. Whose perfume is that? I hope I hear that is the water. And when I'm Holly, there's rumors and talks about to buy a tag. But when you are loyal to every other woman except me. You are loyal to her. You are loyal to her. You are loyal to her, Holly. Usukhumbuke Holly. Ubawuke waphinda weza nalata ipisi yakho apha kwam. Hayi ngamtshisa mna Holly. I will spill hot boiling water on her.
Evelyn, my love. Please, sit down. Please, sit. Just some more sun. Please. Oh, now Paiwan. Oh, Mono Teddy, Mono Paiwan. When we die, we go to our ancestors. Oh my Deba, oh Shomo, Yim, oh Villavin say. You are the son of the soil. Say with me. I am
Holy
the son.
please. Kayeke manufunda abantwana ipolitiki. Oh, go and politics, discrimination, the land, the mess of killings of our people. They are just kids, Holly. And besides, why can't you just leave politics for good? Because I know you can.
What, Evelyn? Leave what?
Leave the struggle, Holly, and be with Jehovah's Witness, just like me.
Evelyn, what is them not doing to you as a husband? The struggle is for all of us. I cannot fold my hands when this country is falling apart.
Oh, so is leaving me alone here in this house to look after the kids while when you are meeting next conferences out of the ANC. You call that, is that also part of the struggle? Now I have to look after the kids. What, the M17 at the hospital while you were busy with the public conferences. I want divorce, Holy Jackson.
My love, please. Evelyn, you can still fix this. Evelyn. My name is Nelson Polisata Mandela. What's your name? Beautiful name.
Mina ndinguWilfred Nolita Nomzamo Madikizela.
Oh, ndavenga Dikizela now.
Hey, 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 hey.
That's it. We demand that. Let's arrest him. Yeah. That's it. Cross. Thank you, sir. My dearest Wayne, your beautiful photo still stands about 2 feet above my left shoulder as I ride the snow. I dusted it carefully every morning. Photo to do so gives me the pleasant feeling that I am still caring for you like it always is. I even touch your nose with mine, the capture electric current will flash through my life whenever it is. I have only received one letter since you were detained. That one dated August 2nd. I do not know anything about family affairs, such as payment of rent, telephone bills, care of children and their expenses, whether you got a job when you get released. As long as I don't hear from you, I will remain worried and dry like desert. Letters from you and the family are like the arrival of summer rains and spring that live in my life and make it enjoyable. Whenever I write you, I feel that inside physical warmth that makes me forget all my problems. I become full of love.
The night, that's when I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home. Far across the river, can you hear freedom calling, calling me to answer? Gonna keep on keeping on. I can feel it in my
Would you like to pick a new name to mark your freedom?
early in the morning, before the sun begins to shine. We're gonna start moving towards that separating line. I'm wading through muddy waters. You know I gotta make
am the first accused. We had no doubt that we had to fight. Anything else would have been up to surrender. Our problem was not whether to fight, but how to continue the fight. We of the ANC had always stood for a non-racial democracy, and we shrank from anything that might push the races further apart than they already were. It is true, as I have already stated, that I have been influenced by Marxist thoughts. But this is also true of many leaders of the new independent state, such widely different persons as Gandhi, Nehru, Nkrumah, and Nasser all acknowledge this fact. We accept the need for some form of socialism to enable our people to catch up with the advanced countries of this world. And to fight against their poverty. But this does not mean we are Marxists. This does not mean we are Marxists. This does not mean we are Marxists. This does not mean we are Marxists.
It is impossible to begin this lecture without again expressing my deep appreciation to the Nobel Committee of the Norwegian Parliament for bestowing upon me and the civil rights movement of the United States such a great honor. The problem is far from solved. We still have a long, long way to go before the dream of freedom is a reality for every Negro in the United States. To put it figuratively in biblical language, we've just left the dusty shores of Egypt and crossed the Red Sea's waters, who had for years been hardened by a long and piercing winter. But before we reach the majestic shores of the Promised Land, there is a frustrating and bewildering wilderness ahead. The main section of the civil rights movement of the United States says that the demand for dignity, equality, jobs, and citizenship will not be abandoned, diluted, nor postponed. Never. Even if we face resistance nor conflict, we shall not flinch, we shall not cower, we shall not cower. We must fix our vision not merely on the negative impulsion of war, but upon the positive affirmation of peace. The positive
affirmations of peace. The positive affirmations of peace.
Ours is not a try for power, but it is a fight for India's independence. In a violent struggle, a successful general often starts a military coup and begins a dictatorship. But under the Congress scheme of things, essentially non-violent as it is, there can be no room for dictatorship. A non-violent soldier will covet nothing for himself. He fights only for the freedom of his country. And then there is the problem of your attitude towards the British. The people make no distinction between British imperialism and the British people. To them, the two are one. We must get rid of this hatred. Our quarrel is not with the British people. We fight their imperialism.
We fight their imperialism. We fight their imperialism.
The plot to assassinate Mahatma Gandhi for his tolerance of Muslims was chaotic.
Good evening.
Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, 39 years old and a Nobel Peace Prize winner, and the leader of the nonviolent civil rights movement in the United States, was assassinated in Memphis tonight. First bullet cut down Dr. King as he stood on the hotel balcony in Memphis.
Fellow South Africans, our beloved Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela, the founding president of our democratic nation, has departed.
Now that they are gone, we can finally stop capping and start hating. Pick up that highlighter and the rubber, erase the gold, and emphasize the wicked. Their bravery was iconic, but struggling South Africans lose faith in Nelson Mandela's legacy. Mandela let us down. He is a traitor, I sell out. Mandela is now a corporate foundation. He agreed to a bad deal for black South Africans. Presently, when we face failure, injustice, or prejudice, we can finally stall back, look down on their deeds, spit on their graves, burn their statues to ashes, codes to dust, and deny it all. They were never enough. Even though he is revered today, Martin Luther King was widely disliked by the American public when he was killed. He plagiarized. He was promiscuous. Says they are faults, we are flawed. They should have been perfect as their pitch and pens, antagonize and demonize them. Or we can ask ourselves why we tend to question excellency only after the excellent passes, and wonder why our kids are ignorant. Unknown miscreants have vandalized, ripped from the base, a statue of Mahatma Gandhi in a park in the US states of California. A controversial statue was pulled down of India's independence leader in a University of Ghana following protests and petitions for its removal. Gentlemen, that's all I have.
But do you write everything you say?
Yes!
Word for word?
Yes!
And publish?
Yes!
How come our people have not changed their minds about us?
I don't know!
What have you written?
I write about your special days. I make sure people remember your codes, your admiration for one another. I wrote about your visit to India.
Did you include that he slept on my bed just to feel my vibrations?
Yes!
That was gay.
My wife was there.
You felt that this vibration was your wife lay next to you? Strange.
You wouldn't get it.
I do!
Of course you would.
I wrote about your days as a boxer. Yep.
Don't worry. Your mouth won all the fights your fists lost.
That was a good one.
Can we stop the talk and think what the next letter should say?
Oh, come on! Again, you're such a party pooper. It's not your fault. Give up!
What? Have my people found their ultimate freedom?
No!
Are people united and just?
No!
Are my people peaceful?
No! There hasn't been any
Okay, now that's just toxic. But I'm gonna let it slide because an eye for an eye leaves the world blind. See what I did there, Kandi?
How are you so carefree? Can you not see the war that is coming for our people?
Unemployment is high. Crime is high. Can you not see why my people are dead?
The division is widening. Can you not feel the sense of urgency? You're just news. You're fake news.
No!
Fake news.
No!
News.
No! No! Okay, you know what? Let me just breathe and leave. Because the great Gandhi once said, authentic news always know when to
I never said that.
We cannot rely on this paper.
The letter must be written by us. We must write the letter.
What it says must bring revolution.
It must be powerful.
It should be the truth.
How do you show?
Telling the truth is the only way we can connect with our inner selves and find peace.
And connect with others.
Understand that I am because you are.
In 1906, I started the philosophy of Satyagraha, which is a philosophy of non-violent protest, in order to show my people the power of peace and forgiveness.
In 1955, we held a successful bus boycott, which lasted for over a year, because I had a dream that my people could achieve true justice and equality.
I joined the ANC in 1944 and I established the first black law practice in South Africa because I wanted my people to understand their power.
I was arrested countless times. It was in the Birmingham police station where I composed my legendary letter. I was not an icon. I was a man who had a dream that my people would achieve true justice and equality.
In India, in 1936, I led the Dandi Salt March against salt tax. And 6 years later, I led the Quit India campaign against British imperialism. For all of my efforts, I received no less than 5 Nobel nominations, but never once did I win. Yet this does not bother me, because I was not an icon. I was just an ordinary man doing the best that he could to show my people the power of peace and forgiveness.
The deal I agreed to in contest was the first step to a journey of 1,000 miles. The next step to be taken by you. I was not an icon. I was an ordinary man who had an idea for which he was prepared to die.
This is it.
Ubuntu.
Thank you very much to the UKZN School of Arts. Let's give them another round of applause. Come on. Okay, please don't leave your seats. We've got one more musical production this time on Martin Luther King, Mandela and Gandhi, so please don't go away. It's going to be coming on in 2 minutes. We are very, very happy to have the Lageshri Dance Academy. These are learners at schools, and they put a musical production together on the three icons, so please enjoy.